Hey, everyone. Welcome to Locked On Lakers for Thursday. Brian Kamenetzky, Andy Kamenetzky. Lakers management goes a long way to show more love to Luka Doncic. We'll explain that. Plus, a Luka-themed mailbag. All that coming up next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers your first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how or where you get your podcasts. We're always going to have one for you, and it's never going to be forcing you to take money out of your wallet and give it to someone else. It's always free, Andy, and it's never behind a paywall. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go hang out with over 36,000 subscribers, many of whom were leaving questions for our mailbag, which we appreciate and we'll dive into later in this episode. Questions about Luka, an interesting question about who the next Laker to demand a trade might be, and it's not necessarily who you're thinking of. So we will get into all of that and more in just a moment, but I do need to let everybody know that today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. All right, so we'll get into all that other good stuff, Andy, in a moment. But today, as you know, the Slovenian national team opens up Eurobasket for like the real games. They'll play the hosts Poland at 11:30 Pacific. For those of you who are curious, that is the most humane time on the West Coast that Slovenia will be playing. If you want to catch them at any other time, you're going to have to get up really early in the morning. So it's Slovenia versus Poland. And in order to show support for their new franchise player, Andy, Lakers management continues to go all out.
Jeanie, Rob Pelinka, the Rambi, and the director of player performance and health, Dr. Leroy Sims, they are all in Poland to watch the Lakers' next franchise face compete with the Slovenian national team in Eurobasket. Rob Pelinka said, quote, we just wanted to make a statement to Luka that we support what he does for his country. It's really important to the Lakers when we have a player that's the face of our franchise, just to show that support for him. And it's just great to see him with his teammates interacting, having fun. As you said, I guess this was in response to somebody. He's in great shape, really committing to working hard this summer, and to be able to watch that in person was worth flying over the ocean to come be with him. Glad that it specified that they flew over the ocean.
Didn't go under or around.
You can never, and chef's kiss, if there's ever an opportunity to make the statement 3% more flowery, you know damn well Rob's going to jump on it.
He makes me blush. So look, I mean, the Lakers haven't had a star player, and you can see the pictures there if you're watching along on YouTube. By the way, Apple, iTunes, Spotify, great ways to subscribe to the audio product. It's Pau Gasol was the last, you would agree, Andy, the last star player they've had who has had overseas commitments for the Lakers. Like, you know, since I think there may have been a couple other players who have played for their national teams, but nobody where you would think the Lakers would hop on an airplane. But that said, this is the kind of thing that the Lakers are really good at. This is not necessary. This isn't something that, look, first of all, he already signed the contract. Second of all, like, the team has been very supportive of Luka and said all the right stuff and done all the right stuff. This is not necessary, but it's really smart.
Yeah.
And so kudos to Lakers management for taking an extra step like this and recognizing an opportunity to continue to show support, because again, this isn't about Team USA. This is Team Slovenia. And you are saying, you know, most of America isn't concerned about whether or not Slovenia does well in Eurobasket, but it's important to Luka. And therefore, what is important to Luka is important to management.
Well, like you said, Luka has already signed his extension, but it's only a 2+1. And in today's NBA world, you start getting towards the player options and the end of the contracts quicker than you may realize in real time. So you are always, particularly a franchise like the Lakers, but frankly, organizations around the NBA. I mean, take the Bucks. They waived and stretched Damian Lillard in a way that is going to be financially and logistically painful for them. But they did it with the express idea of we're going to create the space to bring in Miles Turner because we want to continue to show Giannis, to whatever degree that we can, we are going to try to keep putting contending teams around him. I don't know if they also flew to Poland or whatever country Greece is competing in to show Giannis that they're serious, but if they just saw these Twitter photos of Pelinka and the gang,
fire up the jets, we gotta go.
John Horst is screaming at the pilot right now. Let's get going, man! Come on,
on delay.
Exactly. But
is this as fast as this jet goes?
These are the things that you do in order to let your franchise.
Is there a I mean, but like in all seriousness, is there a Kroenke there watching Nikola Jokic? I don't know, but probably
considering Nikola Jokic has not signed his extension, and granted, it's financial, or at least seems to be. It's also interesting too because Rob Pelinka was asked about concerns with Luka doing this, worries about injury, mileage, that sort of thing. He said, quote, "zero problems." I mean, it's just something we believe in for the Lakers organization. And I think there is some degree of the Lakers recognizing the value of this in terms of, like we said, supporting your franchise face, and also assuming Luka comes out of this all in one piece. There are global marketing and stage opportunities that,
no question,
an organization like the Lakers, they are always very, very aware of this stuff, and I don't blame them.
Well, no, I mean, and I don't mean to cut you off, but like, to be fair to them, that is part of the calculus of why you get excited about signing a player like Luka. It's the winning, but like, you don't think the Dodgers were excited both about the talent of Shohei Ohtani, but also the global phenomenon that is Shohei Ohtani. Like that's part of the reason I'm
not being critical of him.
No, I'm saying like I forget exactly how much Shohei got because so much of it is deferred. But like that's why he got
$700 million, $680 deferred.
Okay, that's why they gave him $700 million. If they didn't have that global component to it, they would have paid him a lot. But I don't actually think it would have been $700 million.
It begins to pay for itself. We've seen it with Ohtani and the Dodgers pretty quickly. But, if you asked Rob and Jeanie and everybody that's in Poland right now, if Luka had said to you, "Hey, do you guys mind if I don't do this?" Or, I'm thinking about perhaps not competing for Slovenia. Deep down, they're all thinking, "Sweet." Like they are, because Luka is their franchise face. He is their investment. He is the foundation of all the success that they want to have. So if you're asking me if they would be disappointed that Luka, for whatever reason, decided not to compete in Eurobasket, no. But they're never going to stand in the way of it in the same way no organization stands in the way of their franchise face doing this sort of stuff. Like we've been asked before, like, couldn't the Lakers have put this in Luka's contract? Like, not if they wanted to sign it.
Right. I mean, I guess you could try, but not a good idea.
No,
this is part of it. And I think the way Rob phrased the statement is important. It's like, we know how much he values this, that he values this experience. And so he's putting it in Luka's terms. He's not pretending like, we're here. We love European basketball and we're here to support the growth of the game. It's like, no, we're not making up any other excuses or reasons or BS or whatever. It's like, we are here because it's important to our most important player. As a person, it's important to our most important player. Like that, like they're not necessarily selling a lot of jerseys and this and that, but like I guarantee you that there will be a moment where Luka is considering something with the Lakers or this, that, whatever. Do I put in a little extra effort to try to bring in a player or whatever it might be, where he thinks of like, these guys flew to Poland to watch me practice before I was playing, the next day or whatever it is. Like, that's a big deal. It's a big gesture, and it is a smart way to spend your time. And I'm sure it's not they like Luka, and it's genuinely want to show support for your player, but it's not, it's a smart thing to do.
Absolutely.
Let's move to the mailbag, Andy, because we've got a lot of Luka related questions and a very intriguing one, I think, about who might be the next Laker to ask for a trade. So we'll do all of that next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all of their financial accounts or even what they're worth, which, side note, kind of crazy. Like, get on it. Whether it's 401k, property, investments, and if you don't have the full picture, you end up leaving money on the table. That's why Monarch Money is there for you, an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or phone. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart characterization of your spending, all without ever touching a spreadsheet. You will feel in control. This is something that can be helpful for me with my daughter now starting high school. So you're already thinking about college, and that is stressful stuff. Monarch can help me streamline spending, figure out areas I can be more efficient, maybe not even spend at all, and create for that next step. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year.
All right, so we put out the call, Andy, for the mailbag, and you guys responded. We appreciate. Continue to leave us questions, leave us the stuff that you want to answer, whether it's on Twitter at Cam Brothers, Kamenetzky Brothers at gmail.com if you want to do things the mail way, and then also over the YouTube page on the community section. We post these mailbags, and people have some interesting ones, and a lot of them started with Luka. Actually, a lot of them from the same guy.
Yeah,
Luka. But they're all good questions, so we're going to go through a lot of them.
Yeah, the typical Jesse 5068 had a few questions regarding Luka. Let's see where we begin. How about start with this one? If Luka can be a consistent positive defender as well as gain that burst back he lost, could Luka climb to the real best in the league discussions? I mean, he's already there. Luka is already a part of the best in the NBA conversations.
Consensus top 5 guy.
Yeah. I think what we're really talking about is, could he be truly best in the league, MVP, front runner, the guy that essentially displaces Jokic consensus? Because Jokic has been considered the best player in the NBA, I'd say, for at least 3 seasons.
Yeah. And it's not going anywhere. And like, he may not win MVP every year, but
he's been considered the best player in the league for a few seasons.
People play, voters get bored. But I think he is just that much better. Like, here's what I'll take. So like, I think these are very difficult conversations to really quantify. I don't know if it's necessarily a matter of like Luka becoming a positive defender, but what I do think it becomes is a situation where the Lakers are playing good enough defense, whether it's because of Luka or because they've designed something that works around Luka, and the Lakers are a top 10 defense, and meanwhile Luka is putting up the numbers that he did in Dallas a couple of years ago, 33 and 8 and 8 or something like that. I think it was something just incredibly absurd. then I think you start to talk about him, if not the best player in the league, certainly maybe the second best, because you're taking away the thing that people focus on to be like, yeah, but it's not a question of does Luka become positive. It's does Luka play well enough on defense, and do the Lakers especially play well enough defensively that we're just not talking about it, and we can focus on the highlights every night and the massive numbers that he's putting up and the new body and the fact that the Lakers, for all of this to happen, the Lakers, in my opinion, would have to be third or fourth in the conference, probably. They can't be pushing for seventh or eighth or ninth or something like that. They got to be up in the top half or competing for it. If all those things happen, I think there's a shot that you look at it at the very least and say he's right behind Jokic.
Yeah, and first of all, you referenced that best season from a couple of years ago. That was actually 2024, where you shortchanged him a little bit. He was averaging a shade under 34 points a game, a shade under 10 assists, and 9 rebounds on 38% from behind the arc, 49% from the field. So that's
good.
Really
okay.
Also, Luka's playoff averages. Wow. A shade under 31 points a game, 8.5 rebounds, 9 rebounds, 8 assists.
Right. I mean, does anybody wonder why he needed a bit of a break after that? I mean, it's like, and he wasn't healthy. Like you could see why last season, by his standards, was set up to be a bad one. Again, by his standards. So
I think this couples well with a question from Ice L 7858. If Luka is MVP and LeBron is top 8 player, where do the Lakers end the season at? I would say 2 or 1 seed in the West. One of the best records. If Luka is at an MVP level and LeBron is playing top 8, which probably means you're talking about him pretty close to top 5 in the league.
6th in MVP voting last year. So
assuming those two guys don't play at those levels and there's a bunch of other injuries around them and they're essentially playing at that level in order just to keep the train on the tracks. I'll put it this way. The Lakers were a 3 seed last year. It sounds very difficult for me to believe they'll be below a 3 seed.
I think that's probably true. I'll put a number value on it. I think that's probably, assuming again, relative health for the rest of the roster, guys play to expectations. That's probably 53, 54 wins, I think, which not going to be enough to catch Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City is going to win more than that if they're healthy. I actually think Houston will win more games this year than they did last year. So it may not even catch, but like if the Lakers are 3, 4, 5 games better than they were last year, first of all, I think that is going to put them in the top 4 at least, because I think Denver could be 3 or 4 or 5 games better as well. But that puts them in that conversation. That puts Luka in that conversation. I would agree. Here's one that I found super intriguing. We'll answer one more Luka question from typical Jesse. And I'm going to combine these and we can maybe carry this over the break. Can you see the Luka Ayton pick and roll being the deadliest action in basketball? And there's an Ayton follow-up we'll save for another time there. And then do you see JJ implementing more off-ball actions to free up the load on Luka like we saw early with Dallas last season before they traded him? So 2 sort of scheme-related questions for regarding Luka.
The deadliest action in basketball, that's a really high bar to me. Like you and I think, have been pretty bullish about the DeAndre Ayton addition and how we think people are overlooking just how much he can bring to the table as a legitimate starting center.
We're going to need to dial it back a little bit.
Yeah, like deadliest action in basketball. No, I mean, not until we see evidence of DeAndre Ayton playing at like an all NBA or at minimum all-star level, which ain't easy to do in the West.
Super cool if it happens.
But do I think it can be a very effective play for the Lakers? Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I think they're
include LeBron in that, by the way, too, running some of that action for DeAndre Ayton.
We'll carry the rest of this. So the second part of the question we'll carry over the break. But I think Ayton's, it's interesting. Like, he's not a rim protector in the way that, he'll offer a little bit there. He's a very good rebounder and he'll offer a lot there. And he's not a high flying act, like you're bouncing gazelle up and down the floor or something like that in terms of what you think of as like a vertical threat and whatever. Jackson Hayes is more of a leaper than DeAndre Ayton is, but Ayton is a very good pick and roll player. And the capacity to use him in multiple ways in the pick and roll, because Hayes, to the extent that he was useful as a pick and roll player, was only rolling to the basket and throw it up to him and go get it. Ayton has a mid-range game. He can get down. You can run action to get him down in the post to receive a pass. Like, there are a lot of ways that you can utilize Ayton in the pick and roll, whether he's in it setting a screen, which he also does pretty well, or if he's the recipient of it in secondary action, which kind of leads to the next question. Doesn't need to be the best in the league to be really, really good and really, really effective. And I think Luka's going to like it. And if all goes well, DeAndre Ayton's going to tear up the second year of that contract and get himself paid a lot more money. So we'll get to the rest of these Luka questions, plus this question of the next Laker potentially to ask for a trade. We'll do all that next. Want to remind people, the Locked On Network, not just our show, but the entire network, David Locke himself, has an important request. We want to hear from you. We put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make sure that you can make your favorite shows like this one even better. It's your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't like, answer questions about our advertising, which we get a lot of mail about. So go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thank you again for helping us out. So if you forgot it, the second question from Typical Jazzy 5068, which I believe is his birth name, or her, I'm not sure. Do you see JJ implementing off-ball actions to free up the load on Luka like we saw with Dallas early last season before they traded him? I didn't watch enough Dallas basketball to know exactly what they were doing, but broadly, Andy, what do you think about the types of actions that they'll be running?
What I want to see we've talked a lot, I know, about like two-man synergy between LeBron and Luka and Austin, and also what we had seen pre-Luka trade with LeBron and Austin. And then the idea of synergy involving all three of the primary initiators, playmakers, scorers on this team. Can you find a way to create action that directly involves the three of them playing off each other? And to be honest, I don't know how much of it is going to look that way in terms of, for lack of a better way of putting it, almost like a three-man weave, something like that. What I do want to see, in whether you're talking about off-ball action that becomes part of a play, the way LeBron and Luka play together, all three of them, LeBron and Luka and Austin, because I think that is going to be also something that they are evaluating as well, how the two of them play together. I want to see, just in general, more action scheming, however you want to put it, that involves less of any of the three of them going ISO and just kind of let Luka cook, let LeBron cook, let Austin cook. I want to see more of them working in some type of synergy with either each other or the rest of the team, where it doesn't feel like at the end of the day, you're just waiting for one of those three guys to create a shot for themselves. And you're allowing a defense to set. You're frankly allowing 14 or 15 seconds to fritter by before it feels like you're even doing anything. I want to just see more play with purpose. And before I even think about the ways I would look to have Luka operate off ball or whatever. I just want to see more offense with purpose.
I'm okay with them setting up ISO, to see, you running actions that where the result is you get a matchup that you want, and off motion or whatever that allows a player to take a player one-on-one, whether that's AR or Luka or LeBron or whomever. But I think the important part is, are you doing that off of action? Are you doing that off of, same guy who brings up the floor, ball up the floor, comes over like one screen or something like that, and then just pounds the ball into the ground.
That's what I'm talking about when I say the end result of, let whoever cook. That type of setup.
And I think, in terms of the question about off ball, again, I didn't watch enough Mavs to know exactly what they were doing offensively. And I don't necessarily think you're trying to take the load away from Luka. I think you're using Luka to take the load away from LeBron. Now, that doesn't mean that there won't be times where they want to give. You have Austin Reeves, you have LeBron James. You could afford to get creative with what you do, but I don't think the idea is you want to just lighten Luka's load. I think you want the ball in Luka's hands as much as you can, but I do think you can run a lot to maximize the other guys. There's the people, they're going to run a ton of screen and roll. There's going to be a lot of pick and roll, but you're going to run that with Luka and LeBron. You're going to run that with Luka and Ayton. You're going to have LeBron and Ayton. Like, you can do a lot of things though. But it's that third guy, that fourth guy. Where are you putting the other, what actions are you running? What other things are you doing with that pick and roll to create shot opportunities for the player who's off the ball, the player who's on the weak side? Like, I think that's going to be where JJ is going, and the rest of the staff is going to try to get creative. And you don't want to overcomplicate it. There is such a thing as we've got making it too difficult. It's like, we've got Luka, we've got LeBron. You can do a lot of simple things that will rely on their talent level and their vision to give people good open shots in spots that you want shots to come from. But you just don't want to. What you don't want to see, like you said, is a little bit like it happened last year, where the offense would get oddly stagnant despite having that much offensive talent on it. Let's wrap here with this question, and it comes from Twitter. It was left for us, and I'm just scrolling back up to it, from Aditya, who asks the question. Do you think Dalton Knecht will request a trade if he doesn't get playing time in the first months of the season? Andy, we of course have been focused on the what people are really hoping happens, the turmoil creating trade demand from LeBron James. There's a lot of wish casting going on out there from people who just want this to be a thing. I'd never really thought about that. The idea that Dalton Knecht actually might be someone who asks out if he can't find a way to get into the rotation.
It's a hard thing to predict, just because, both of us have interacted some with Dalton, asked questions or whatever, but I don't have a really strong idea of how he's wired.
He's a hooper.
Well, I was going to say also off the top of my head, I don't know who Dalton's agent is, because sometimes this stuff matters, like depending on if your agent is more on the aggressive side, confrontational, that sort of thing. That being said, though, if it is pretty clear after a month or so of the season that Dalton is only really going to get minutes if somebody's hurt, if somebody or somebody's really start to struggle and you got to try somebody else, or garbage time, when you compound that with the idea that they did actually trade Dalton, and granted, and I think this is something Dalton really needs to remember, like, it's important. They did not trade Dalton for a souped up, more seasoned version of Dalton. They traded Dalton for a center. Like, they traded him for skill sets that he cannot possibly provide, no matter how well he plays, unless he grows like 7 inches overnight. It's not going to happen.
Which would be cool.
It would be cool, but not going to happen.
Unlikely.
But the fact that he knows they have traded him before, and if he starts out not playing, and knowing the stakes of this season, they are playing for as high a seed as possible, championship run, yada, yada, yada. He might decide, in order to set myself up, not just for my next contract, but frankly, the foundation of my career, I may need to be somewhere else.
Oh yeah, I think there's a good chance that something like that happens, but I don't think it'll be like a big public demand. Like, you're Dalton Knecht. Like, you don't do that. You don't make a big deal out of that sort of thing. But I do think quietly, everybody might be like, maybe the best thing here is for you guys to help us find Dalton a place where he can get a little bit more playing time, where he can develop, more in an environment like, frankly, Charlotte, where he can get a lot of playing time, and the stakes of his mistakes aren't as high.
Yeah, I mean, the catch-22 is obviously, if he doesn't play, the Lakers don't put themselves in the opportunity to get maximum value for him. So, and he becomes, if say he's supposed to be the theoretical sweetener, if the primary salary is Gabe or Maxey or both or whatever, he seems less sweet if he's not really playing. And, you have to really think back to the first few months of the season last year to really get the highest upside vision of Dalton. And, these guys around the league, they scout everybody. There are probably teams like a Charlotte that spent plenty of time scouting Dalton before the draft because they thought they might have an opportunity to take him. But nonetheless, it becomes a damned if you do, damned if you don't type thing, because the Lakers may not be able to get the maximum value for Dalton without playing him. But if they play him, they have to be willing to ride out some mistakes. Otherwise, you're not going to raise his trade value. It's a complicated dance.
Yeah, I mean, but here's the thing. I think if it gets to the point where if he's asking for a trade behind the scenes, call up Rob like, hey, the deadline's coming. Can you move us? Or the summertime, it's like by then, if it reaches that place because he's not playing, which is why he would ask for a trade, the Lakers by that point aren't going to be able to use him as sweetener. It's just a matter of, maybe somebody has interest in him. Maybe, the 5 million plus or 6 million he makes this year is useful, whatever it is. You're not dealing with value at that point. And so that part of it, I think, essentially goes out the window, and you're just trying to find a place that wants him and where you can get a decent return, because you don't want to give him away. But you would look for a decent return, because again, if the Lakers aren't playing him, there's maybe a reason for that, but also, is it going to get better next year when you're more competitive and you have more, dollars to go out and get? Like, there may just not be an avenue for it. So I think that's how it would go. Keep sending us your questions. Keep sending us those mailbag questions, because we will use them throughout the rest of the off season. We will update you on everything that happens with Slovenia versus Poland on Thursday afternoon for Friday's show. Get you ready for the weekend. The 2 games that Slovenia plays there, starting Saturday against France. That'll be a good game. The French are a loaded bunch with tons of NBA players. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can hang out with over 36,000 subscribers to the channel. Or find us on iTunes. Find us on Spotify. We'll see everyone tomorrow.